everybody, welcome to Board Online, Board Offline. Today we have how to play the Seventh Continent. Very excited to bring this to you. This is one of my favorite solo games of all time right here. Speaking of which, be sure to check out my top 11 solo games of all time, which is right here. You can click on that link to go see that. So the Seventh Continent is a massive adventure game. There's a lot of content just in the base box, which is the only thing I have. There's several expansions out there as well that I'd be interested in getting my hands on eventually. So we're going to get right down to that in just a moment. First, I want to mention our sponsor, Board Game Co. This is a great website where you can buy, sell, and trade games. Board Game Co. has a great selection of games to choose from if you're looking to buy games, build out your collection. You really want to start diving into this great hobby. If you're looking to trim down your collection a little bit, maybe you need some more space in your apartment or your home or wherever you are, you can sell games to Board Game Co. They have competitive prices for selling games to a retail entity. Now, also, you can trade with them. This is really the cool thing in my mind. And I think it kind of sets them apart is this trade feature, where if you have a Board Game Geek account and you have set up a trade list on Board Game Geek, you set up what games you want in trade, what games you have for trade. If you put in your Board Game Geek username over there on the Board Game Co. website, they will compare that list that you've built with their stock, and they'll build a trade list right there on the website. Makes it super easy to make a trade. You can still make trades without a Board Game Geek account, but it just makes it a lot easier if you do have one. So be sure to go check out Board Game Co. If you do check them out, click on the link in the description below so they know I sent you over there. Board Game Co. makes it easy to buy, sell, and trade your way into a better collection. All right, let's get down to the game topper, and I'm going to show you how to play the Seventh Continent. Oh, also, real quick, throughout the video, you might hear me refer to some stuff that's going to show up later in the video. When I was originally making this video, I was thinking I was going to do it all in one part. Then I started really realizing, kind of doing the math, realizing how long it would be if I did it all in one part. So I split it into two parts. So some of that stuff that I say later in this video, it'll be in the second video. This video just covers overview of all the different types of cards and the setup of the game.
To win the Seventh Continent, players must lift each curse they choose at the beginning of the game. That may seem a bit nebulous at first, but don't worry. The game will clearly let you know when this happens. These are the 4 curses included in the base game. It's recommended that you perform the curses in this order as well: the Voracious Goddess, an offering to the gods, the Dark Chest of the Damned, and the Bloody Hunt. If you have any of the expansion content, check out the FAQ released by Serious Pulp for exactly what order they would recommend you perform the curses, including that expansion content. The Seventh Continent is a game comprised almost entirely of cards, so before we discuss setting the game up, let's take a look at the various types of cards the players will encounter during the game. Also keep in mind that card text will always override the rulebook. Green or gold numbered cards are adventure cards. They include the terrains players will discover as they explore the continent, the predefined events such as places, encounters, etc. that can be triggered, items the players can find, as well as many more surprises to be discovered. On the back of the cards, the players will find the card's unique ID number in the bottom left corner, the card number, in this case 003, and often some flavor text, as you can see here. Adventure cards often will show terrain. Terrain cards are portions of the continent that remain in play on the board. A player may move their figure to a terrain card, take actions shown on the terrain cards, and use resources found on the terrain to craft items at a less expensive cost. These arrows indicate exploration cards that need to be put into play adjacent to the terrain cards. This is a permanent event card. Permanent event cards remain in play on the board after they have been revealed. They are attached to the terrain card in the direction that their placement arrow indicates. This is card 005, so it was placed here because of this action. This icon indicates that this action may no longer be played. Any effects or actions available on the permanent event will be listed here. This icon indicates a temporary event. Temporary events must be resolved immediately and are discarded into the past immediately after being resolved. Sometimes temporary events will have a title which will appear up top. There's often some flavor text and then an action to be taken. A card with a die symbol like this is an item card. These can be placed in the player's inventories and help them perform certain actions more easily or enable them to take new actions. In this case, the snowshoes can help a player take the snowshoe/ski action. It does so by reducing the cost and or providing additional successes. The number on the die indicates the number of times the item can be used before it is destroyed. This book icon indicates the card is a quest item. This provides the players with helpful information and in some cases enables them to use positive effects or take new actions. Quest items are stored under the player's Satchel and Journal card. The player may look at anything stored under here at any time. At the top of the card, players will find the title of the card along with some flavor text beneath it. And any effects will be listed here. And if there were any keywords, they would be listed at the bottom of the card as well. This red hand indicates that this is a state card. State cards are harmful cards that players add to their hands after obtaining them along the adventure, generally when they fail at performing an action. In most cases, the player will be instructed by the card itself on how to get rid of it, as you can see here. The title of the state card is found up top. Effects and available actions are found down here. If the state card has this blue card with an X through it, it indicates a loss of vital force. We'll discuss more about that and state cards in general during the consequences of events and actions section of this video. This green hand indicates that this card is a bonus card. Bonus cards are positive cards that players add to their hands after obtaining them along the adventure, such as companions, positive states, and side quests that players can complete. The title is found at the top, along with some flavor text beneath it, and effects and actions may be found here, along with any keywords. In this case, side quest. Exploration cards are events that occur randomly as the player explores the continent. They may be permanent events, temporary events, found items, or any number of other things. Each exploration card belongs to the area of the continent represented by the Roman numeral found here and here. Action cards include both skill cards and curse cards. Skill cards are indicated by this blue hand and curse cards by the skull. It should be noted that item cards are a type of skill card. Together, these types of cards form the action deck. The action deck enables the player to perform actions and also represents the player's life force. Let's take a closer look at both skill cards and curse cards. Skill cards enable the player to craft helpful items or help the player benefit from positive effects. The title of the skill is up top, as you might expect. These stars and half stars represent successes generated by the skill card when it's drawn during the result step of an action. Here are the effects of the particular skill, or if the skill provides an item, the item's effects are found here. Keywords, as usual, are found here. And for advanced skills, the purchasing cost is found here. Curse cards decrease the odds the player will perform an action successfully since each is worth 0 successes. Also, if the player is drawing from the discard pile during the cost step and reveals a curse, the players lose the game. We'll discuss action resolution and life force in more detail during their own sections of the video. Character cards provide the portraits and background stories of the explorers that players personify. They also display the character's abilities. The title, effects, and flavor text are all found in similar locations to what we've already discussed. There's also an image of the player's corresponding figure and an image of the actual figure here. Players will also find the backstory of their character here. Players start the game with this Satchel and Journal card, under which they will store any quest item cards that are provided along the adventure. The top of the card has a diagram which reminds players of their hand size and inventory size limits depending on player count. So, in a one-player game, a player may have 4 bonus cards in their hand, 5 skill cards in their hand, and they may have 4 different stacks of items, and each stack may have 4 cards in it.
Whereas in a 4-player game, each player may only have 2 bonus cards in their hand, 2 skill cards in their hand, 2 stacks of items with 2 items in each stack. There's also some flavor text on the back of the card. Before the game begins, the players select the clue cards that correspond to the curse they wish to try to lift. If the player is playing the Voracious Goddess, then this is the clue card for that curse. Each clue provides a piece of information that helps solve the curse it is associated with. As you can see, a clue is considered a quest item. So once selected, it is stored under the Satchel and Journal card just like any other quest item, and the players may look at it and read it at any time. On one side, there'll usually be some sort of drawing or diagram, and on the other side, some story and some instructions for starting the scenario. When the player wishes to save the game, they use the save cards to store the cards that are in the action deck, the discard pile, as well as to keep track of the durability of the items in all players' inventories. We'll discuss exactly how to save the game a little later. Now that we've covered all the different card types the players will encounter, let's finally talk about the setup. First, each player chooses a character card and adds it to their hand. Each player then takes their character's figure and 1 fire token. The Satchel and Journal card is placed face up in front of one player. If the players would like to play in easy mode, they also take 1 777 card. Or if they wish to play in hardcore mode, they take 1 650 card. Each player takes a number of dice based on the player count as shown on the Satchel and Journal card. So for a solo game, 4 dice will be taken. The players choose 1 or more clue cards and store them under the Satchel and Journal card. The first time a player plays, it's recommended to play the Voracious Goddess and to only play with 1 curse. Any unselected clues are returned to the box. Players may choose to attempt to solve as many curses at once as they like, but should know that choosing more than one will significantly increase the difficulty of the game. Next, players will need to create their action deck. First, take the 35 skill cards that are common to all characters. Next, take the 5 skill cards that are specific to each character selected and shuffle them in with the original 35. Next, add the curse card for the clue that was selected. And finally, take the 4 death or lurking cards and add them to the action deck as well. Again, this deck of cards should be well shuffled. Certain copies of the 7th Continent came with a discard pile holder. If you have that, assemble it for the game. Keep in mind that it has 2 possible powers, and only the one that is on the inside of the holder will be active for the game. Make sure all cards are appropriately sorted. As you can see, I have my adventure cards 0 through 650 tabs here. And this actually goes all the way back to 777 if it was still in the box, but I took it out a moment ago. And then here we have our exploration cards, also tabbed with Roman numerals 1 all the way back to Roman numeral 10, which actually doesn't have any cards that come with the base game. Then we have our skill cards that obviously are currently in the action deck. Character-specific skills here, missing the 5 for H.P. Lovecraft, and our advanced skill cards here. Over here, if we were to save the game, the cards for the save game would go here. Preparation and storage cards right here. The past, which we will learn about in the next video, and banished cards, which we'll also learn about. Often, with the adventure cards, you'll find multiple copies of the same number. That's normal, and they are not always identical on the opposite side. Also, you'll often find gold and green versions of a particular number. It's very important that the green version is always in front of the gold version of that number. Next, take the adventure card that the clue card tells you to start on. In this case, begin the adventure by putting a 010 card into play.
So we'd take this card, put it into play.
Then all players place their characters on that card. If the players chose multiple clues, then they will start with the lowest numbered adventure tile. In this case, 010 is still the lowest since the other one is 048. Place an exploration card foggy side up next to each arrow visible on the starting terrain card, making sure that their text is oriented the same way as the other cards on the board. It's also very important that the Roman numeral of the exploration card matches that of the terrain card it is attached to. Finally, players read this section of the rulebook on page 2 out loud, and then their clue card out loud. And now the game is set up and you're ready to begin exploring. So there you go. That is an overview of all the cards, and believe me, there are a lot of cards in 7th Continent, and how to set it up that initial time and then for future times as well. Be sure to come back and check out our second part of our 7th Continent tutorial, which will cover all the gameplay that you're going to be getting yourself into. There's lots of cool stuff in this game. Just a really massive adventure style game where every time you play, you learn something. Playing different curses help you come across different landmarks that will then help you in future curses. That's partly why the curses are recommended being played in a certain order, is because by playing, Voracious Goddess, it might show you stuff that's in what was that second one? I can't remember the name of the second one right now, but then that second one shows you stuff that's in Dark Chest of the Damned, and it goes on like that. So be sure to come back and check out that second part, and until next time, if you're bored online, bored offline.
These arrows indicate exploration cards that need to be put into play adjacent to the terrain card. These arrows indicate exploration cards that need to be put into play adjacent to the terrain cards. Players may choose to attempt to solve as many curses as Players may choose to